The Tesla Cybertruck announcement was 5 days ago, and we made our first impressions video a few hours after the event. And we've watched it over again after a few nights of sleeping on it and having more time to think about it. And I gotta tell you, we've changed our minds on quite a bit of it. So we wanted to make this video as a follow-up to talk about some of the new data that we have, some new insights that we've also figured out, and talk about the Cybertruck and why we're even more impressed with it than we were a few days ago. So that's what we're talking about today. But as always, thank you so much for watching. If you're new, consider hitting that subscribe button and the bell icon. We are a channel dedicated to the future of technology, energy, and transportation. I'm Ricky, and this is Tuba Da Vinci. No discussion of the Cybertruck would be complete without talking about the styling. So when I first saw the event and I saw the truck roll out, in my mind, I actually thought it was a joke. I was like, are you crazy? This is the truck. And then by the end of the event, about 40 minutes later, I thought, okay, this is pretty cool. And then 2 days later, I kind of love it. I love how it looks and I like what they've tried to do. The reason why we're making this video is because we as humans, we're pattern recognition machines. We love to see something and categorize it. That way we can quickly make an assessment about, is it a threat? Is it a dangerous thing to us or not? So trucks for the past 100 years, as Elon showed in the presentation, have all looked the same way. So in our minds, if a truck drove by without even looking, in your periphery, you can go, that's a truck, without even thinking about it, because that's how incredible our brains are. So when this truck rolled out, it probably left a lot of you kind of hurting, or like your brain's kind of grinding the gears, because it doesn't look like anything else we've ever seen before. And that's totally okay, and that's literally what Tesla set out to do. Make a truck that just completely blew away expectations and the norm and the convention of what a truck was. I love it. I think if I were to buy a truck, this is the one I would want. I wouldn't change very much about the truck at all. The styling isn't just form, it's actually also function. So in the announcement, they mentioned the cold rolled stainless steel and the exoskeleton or unibody construction. Most trucks are body on frame, where a big frame that is all the load bearing capabilities is built and a body is dropped on top. In a unibody, the loads are actually distributed among the entire body. As a result, there's more interior space for things like cargo and occupants. And in the case of Tesla, batteries as well. But there is one trade-off when you make a unibody truck. If you look at the Honda Ridgeline, the first generation, you'll notice that there is what they call a sail pillar. This pillar is elongated and kind of connects the body to the end of the bed. The reason why they do that is because when you have to tow 3,000 to 5,000 pounds like the Ridgeline does, that puts a lot of stress on the body. And for torsional rigidity and to be able to handle those loads, they had to have that sail pillar. Now the Tesla truck can tow in its max configuration 14,000 pounds. That's for the tri-motor. But even the single motor version has the same body. So every Cybertruck has that swooping sail pillar because it gives much better rigidity for a pickup truck. SUVs have the luxury of a B pillar and a C pillar that help give better torsional rigidity. But for a pickup truck, half the truck bed is low slung and doesn't have any connecting members. So this sail pillar is something that is kind of a requirement when you go unibody, but Tesla took it and made it the center of their design language and completely stretched it out from the cab all the way to the end of the bed and came up with this incredibly crazy cool design. Also, this is better for aerodynamics than other trucks. Now, one thing we mentioned in the video is that the aerodynamics of the wedge shape is not as good as like a Model 3. And a lot of commenters said, well, it is aerodynamic, it's better than other trucks. We agree. The Cybertruck should be the most aerodynamic pickup truck ever designed. But my point was simply that because of that sharp angle at the top of the roofline, it won't be as aerodynamic as something like a Model 3. And that's because the Model 3 has a very eggshell shape, and that's to allow the air that comes up off the front to swoop over the car and reconnect at the tail end. On the Cybertruck with that sharp edge, some of that air is going to separate, especially at higher and higher speeds. And as a result, you're not going to stick to the car because air can't just bend at a 90-degree angle when it's going over 70 miles an hour. And so as a result, you're going to have an area of low pressure and a little bit higher drag than something like the Model 3. But it'll be light years better than any other truck out there. So finishing up with looks and aero, some of the commenters have pointed out that the best comparisons that they can draw is to the F-117 Nighthawk, one of the first stealth bombers of the US Air Force. and the DeLorean. Now, the Nighthawk was something that was so out of this world when it first came out. It looked like nothing you'd ever seen before, and in fact, when I saw it, my first thought was, there's no way this thing can fly. So the F-117 is all about stealth and deflecting and redirecting radio waves away from the antenna source. But the aircraft is very unstable. It takes dozens of computers to keep it in flight, and it's subsonic. It's not a fast aircraft. So to say that it looks like the F-117, therefore it must be fast, isn't exactly true. But the Cybertruck does look really fast, even kind of standing still. The second thing is the DeLorean. And the DeLorean is one of the few cars that all these decades later, people are still talking about it. And I secretly kind of want to get an electric DeLorean. But if that's the comparison is to the F-117 Nighthawk and the DeLorean, then the Tesla Cybertruck has absolutely accomplished everything Elon set out to achieve. So that's how we feel about the design and how we were really impressed and how my mind has completely changed in the last couple of days. Now, I was also flat out wrong on something, and that I think is when I said that it'll sell about 20,000 cars a year, more like the Model X. But Elon has tweeted that after about 3 days, they already had 200,000 reservations for the truck. So I really think that this truck really is probably going to sell closer to the Model 3 than the Model X. It should sell in the hundreds of thousands a year. Now, so while the demand is there, and that doesn't surprise me, it'll still be up to Tesla to figure out manufacturing lines and factories and how much they want to produce. So that's going to be up to Tesla, but the demand is going to be there, and I think they can easily make 100,000 a year. Another surprising tweet that Elon made was that 42% of the reservations were for the dual motor all-wheel drive. 41% were for the tri-motor, and only 17% was for the rear-wheel drive base pickup. And that's interesting because for the Model 3, I think most reservations were for the base model. And here people are going with the higher trims. And that's good news because Tesla is most likely going to make the dual motor and the tri-motor models first. And people who are waiting for the rear-wheel drive version will have to probably wait the longest. Another observation that I made is as I was perusing the news, I noticed that all the conventional news outlets all had negative views of the event. All they were focused on was the shattered glass and the weird looks, and they were all kind of bashing it as a failed experiment, even though 3 days later, they have 200,000 reservations. I think this shows that there's a fair bit of FUD out there and people who want to see Tesla fail, but try as they might, the amount of interest and love for Tesla seems to be growing at just an exponential pace. So now I want to talk about price and batteries. And this, I think, is the biggest surprise or the greatest takeaway from the entire event. The prices when they revealed them were absolutely amazing. The base model is $39,900, about $40,000. Now sure, that is more expensive than the most base model Ford F-150. You can have a Ford F-150 for about $28,000, but that has no crew cab. It only seats 3 people. So that's not exactly a fair comparison. The Ford F-150 that best resembles the base model Cybertruck cost about $37,000. That has a crew cab, a 3.5 liter V6 engine with a turbocharger, and about a 6.5 foot bed. So that's only about $2,000 difference. And if you go Chevy Silverado, the price difference is about $3,000. So the base model is incredibly competitive. Now, as you move up to the all-wheel drive model, that probably gets into what I call the leisurely and the performance truck lineup. And over in that range, the Ford Raptor has always reigned supreme. The Ford Raptor cost about $52,000, and that's actually a little bit more money than the all-wheel drive Cybertruck. And to be honest, I think when you look at it from a performance perspective, the Cybertruck is probably going to be closer to the Ford Raptor in its dual motor configuration. The tri-motor configuration, there's probably not a truck in the world quite like it. 0 to 60 in 2.9 seconds, 500 miles of range, and a 14,000 pound towing capacity. Now a fully spec'd out, limited edition Ford F-150 can easily reach in the 60s to even $70,000. But in all honesty, I don't think any Ford F-150 can compete with the Cybertruck in that trim. And in all reality, you probably need a Ford F-250 and a Porsche 911 to be able to have all the numbers and all the capabilities that the Cybertruck has. Again, showing you just how great a value it is, especially if you work in construction or you do things that require a truck. So the price is absolutely on point. And these prices are not with any tax incentives or subsidies or anything else. These are just flat prices because Tesla's not going to have much in the way of federal tax credits. In fact, January 1st, they'll be down to zero. Whatever state incentives you might have might still apply based on what state you live in or what country you live in. But here in the US, the federal tax credit is gone for Tesla. So that gets me thinking about the batteries, because the Cybertruck is not going to get as much range per kilowatt hour as a Model 3. It's bigger, it weighs more, it's not quite as aerodynamic, and as a result, let's say the Model 3 can go 4 miles per kilowatt hour. That means a 75 kilowatt hour battery pack can get you 300 miles of range. So what that means is that the Cybertruck, if it gets around 3 miles per kilowatt hour, which is probably pretty fair, would need an 85 kilowatt hour battery pack for the base model. That's more batteries than the Model 3 and a better starting point. So what that tells me is that my prediction would be a 85 kilowatt hour battery pack for the base model or so, and a 175 to 200 kilowatt hour battery pack for the top trim model. That's a lot of batteries, and Tesla's clearly getting better at this. I think Tesla's know-how, their abilities with thermal management for their battery packs, their BMSs, and just general manufacturing prowess has allowed them to build a truck at a price that other people can't really match. Rivian's trucks are much more expensive. So that comes down for me to the batteries. So Gigafactory 1 is still not completely finished being built out. And as they build it out, I predict that they will continue to use Panasonic for their current cars in one part of the plant. But in all the new parts of the plant, I think Tesla is poised to make their own batteries. We have a video, we'll put a link to it, where we talk about the future of their batteries. They've had some strategic acquisitions like Hybar and Maxwell, which will allow them to make their own batteries. And with some of these cost-cutting measures that Maxwell's dry coating technology will allow them, they might be able to get the prices of these batteries down about 20%. And without Panasonic or some other party needing their cut of profit, that's another savings that will be passed right to the consumer. So I think these prices and this range, the two parts of the puzzle that we have, what we don't know is the capacity of the batteries. But based on what I know, I think they're about to have another little breakthrough and a cost cut of about 15 to 20% in their battery technology and their battery manufacturing, which will allow them to deliver these trucks at the prices that they're slated to. At the end of the day, the price and range is the biggest story here. $39,000 is probably $10,000 cheaper than anybody predicted. I bet most people thought the base model rear-wheel drive would cost about $50,000, and now it's coming in under $40,000. So kudos to Tesla for this incredibly amazing truck. They have again given us a glimpse into the future. It'll take some time, it'll be polarizing, and it won't be for everybody. But I think what they have done is they have built a vehicle that we will be talking about decades from now, in the same way that the DeLorean has lasted the test of time. There's also some other interesting aspects for people in the business of using their trucks for work. So the entire bed has T-tracks, which allow you to quickly be able to bring in any sort of tie downs and harnesses to be able to better secure your cargo. One complaint that I heard is that there's no way to mount a cage on top of the truck to be able to haul lumber or drywall, things like that. And while Tesla hasn't announced anything like that, I wouldn't be too surprised if they had that capability, because even where the bed cover rides is a T-track. It's not a stretch to imagine that Tesla or other third parties might make accessories like the bed cage to allow for hauling more lumber or wood or ladders or anything else to the job site. So don't be too surprised if they do make those sorts of accessories, because they have shown off the tent mode for when you're camping, and the bed can become a little tent. And so again, they're using the same sort of harnesses and tie down locations. So it's very likely that they might be able to do more things with the bed in the future. Also, there's an option that Elon tweeted that the bed cover can have solar panels on it, allowing you to charge about 15 miles of range a day. Talk about a fully self-contained vehicle. That might be the very first of its kind, that it can just sit there and charge and then take you home and charge and never need to be even plugged in. So yeah, future accessories, batteries, miles, range, performance, capabilities, and absolutely the looks. This truck kind of has it all. And if Elon had a vision to lay the smack down to all pickup trucks with a truck that was a look into the future, mission accomplished, absolutely. So that is our follow-on video a few days after the fact. We've had time to sleep on it, our minds, our opinions have formed, and we love the truck. So what do you guys think? What are your favorite parts? What parts do you have doubts about or concerns? Are you a reservation holder? Leave us your comments. Your comments really help us understand how people are thinking about this stuff. So thank you so much again for watching. If you're thinking about buying a Tesla, we have a referral link. We have links to other things as well. Consider supporting us on Patreon, and subscribe if you haven't already done so, and share this video. It really helps us out a lot. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Ricky with 2-Bit Da Vinci, and we'll catch you guys on the next one.